Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the July 6th council meeting. I'd like to, before we begin council, I'd like to, we're adopting the agenda. We have some additions. So 5.1 will be Mr. Henry Peters for delegations. 5.2 will be Corporal Jason Barber of the RCMP with his report. Hi, Jason.
Hello.
Number 5.3 will be Noel Chin with our Matrix group auditors. 13.5 will be the borrowing bylaw. Is there any other additions?
Madam Mayor, administration has no other additions.
Council? Okay, could I have someone move to adopt the agenda then, please?
I'll move it for you with the additions.
Thank you, Councillor Forrest. All in favor? Carried. Is Jan here? Councillor Welke?
He is not yet. I'll send him a text.
Okay. So we'll begin with the presentation for Mr. Henry Peters. Please welcome and go forward with your presentation, please.
Hello, and thank you. So I wrote an email, so maybe I should just read that out to you guys. That basically outlines everything that I want to say.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Okay, well, my name is Henry Peters, and I live in the Canford condos on the west side of High Level. Behind my place is a large pasture with long grass and trees, which would provide ideal living conditions for my 2 horses. I have been made aware of the bylaws concerning livestock in the town of High Level, so I'm hoping for an exception due to what I'm proposing. The plan is to set up a portable electric on the pasture trees and the horses. It's all easy and could be installed and moved in a matter of a few hours. The posts used to hold these line are approximately 3.5 feet tall and can be stuck in the ground using your body weight. The electricity required to power the fence is minimal and would be our responsibility as I would use the power from my company. Other responsibilities I would overtake are cleaning up the proposed area of all junk and trash into cleanliness. Proper sign utility equipment to make the fence safe would be installed. Our plan is to bring the horses here during the summer months so we can work with them and enjoy them as much as possible. My goal would be to use my pony for events such as birthday parties and photo shoots. And if my proposal is approved, I will be willing to do much more. I am a skilled concrete finisher, carpenter, and landscaper with experience in building moving. Maybe this could be a win-win for everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So council, do you have any questions of Mr. Peters? Nothing? Councillor Forrest?
Yes, do you think that would start something if we let one person in there? Do you think it start a chain reaction of others wanting to do the same thing with other types of animals and so on?
Oh, we have considered.
That's my concern.
No, we had considered that might be an issue or a concern that would come up. I guess I thought that if maybe I could do something for you, then that would be something you could mention to people. You could say, well, I am doing this for you and in return for this, or somewhere along those lines.
I didn't get that. You keep cutting out on me.
Oh, sorry. What I was saying is if, let's say it was approved and you were to allow me and other people were to ask the same question or to bring up why I was allowed to do this, then maybe there would be something that, well, I am doing this for the town in return for this, or, even just cleaning up the mess that's back there might be something you could say to people if they ask. But I understand the question. When we thought about that too, why would we be allowed and others not, right?
That's right.
But the thing would be is that I would do something for you in return. I don't know, I can help with things. I can clean up the mess back there. I can I don't know, help with moving and cleaning out the trailer park, all sorts of whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Anderson.
My question to you, what provisions would you have in place to prevent wildlife from going after your horses? Because an electric fence isn't going to stop a bear or like leaving coyotes. So if one were to come into place, where do the horses go?
That's the problem we would be facing everywhere where our horses are. Right now, we have them out in Bluma North at my wife's parents' place, and that's way off the beaten path with lots of wolves and bears, coyotes. Honestly, I would feel more threatened for the wolves and the coyotes coming after my horses. They are more than capable of taking care of themselves.
Yeah, the child that the horse stampedes over because it's scared, the horse survives, the kid maybe doesn't. So that would be my biggest, or one of my concerns.
Okay, fair.
Okay, so council, we can discuss this, but if you have any direct questions about his proposal, please present them too, and we will discuss after during the discussion period.
Okay,
I would like to add one more thing. Our horses are right now in an electric fence. They have been most of last winter and all of this summer. And there have been dogs chasing them around or whatever, and they have never broke through the fence as of yet. You know, it's not something that can't happen, but it is unlikely.
Okay. Is there any other questions of Mr. Peters? Seeing none, thank you very much, and we will make our decision later on
Sounds good. Thank you for your
and
time.
let you know. Thank you very much.
You're
thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to call upon Corporal Barber to give the RCMP report, please. Welcome. Welcome to Zoom. Oh, you're on mute. Can you hear us?
No, I don't
You're
hear
on
anything.
How's that?
mute. There you are.
Okay, that's what that button's for. I've got Dennis, Staff Sergeant Dennis Delleron gave me the May report. I don't know if those were presented at all to you. Or if you recall.
Yeah, we had the May, June in an in-camera.
Oh, okay. So I've got a report for June if you'd like me to
Yes.
go through that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I've got monthly prisoner stats. This month we had 113. Year to date is 612. Monthly calls for service was 421 calls. Year to date was 1636. I don't have a comparison to what they were last year, but I'm sure we can dig those up later if you need them. June 2020, we had a slight increase over the last month. 421 calls this month compared to 388 last month. There were 17 reported assaults, 5 with assault with a weapon or causing bodily harm, 1 assault police officer. Charges have been laid on 9 of those files, and 5 of them were impounded. There were 6 break and enter files. 2 have resulted in charges. 1 victim requested no further action, and department discretion was used in 2 others. And 1 we had insufficient evidence to proceed with further charge. We had 4 impaired driving complaints. 3 of them were given roadside sanctions. We weren't able to follow through with the full impaired due to the COVID restrictions, being able to give them a breath sample. 1 of the files was actually, we believe, was in Paddle Prairie, but it was scored in the high level area, so we weren't able to divide that up. Next, there were 26 Liquor Act related incidents. 9 resulted in charges being laid. The other 16 were lodged until they were sober and able to care for themselves, as well as not cause any further issues in town. There were 60 calls for mischief to property or obstruction or enjoyment of property. 4 charges were laid in those instances. 1 was unfounded, and the rest were cleared by using discretion. Basically a warning for keeping the noise down, those kind of things. There were 11 mental health calls. All the persons were dealt with utilizing the hospital, getting treatment for themselves, getting cared for. A couple of the calls were duplicate files, so in one instance, 3 of them were the same person, just different times during the day. We had 4 missing person files in the month, and all individuals were located in good health. There were 2 firearm related calls. One was a call near 100th Avenue. We weren't able to find out what the sound was, whether it was a gunshot or firework. The other call was just the person wanting to turn in some older rifles. So it scored as firearms, even though it's not really a firearm being shot in town. We had 2 sexual assault files. There have been charges laid on both of those files. There are 3 vehicles stolen. All the vehicles were located and charges have been laid in those files. We had 15 911 calls. Most of them were unfounded. 3 were either unable to locate where the call came from, or there was children under 12 that did a misdial with their parents' phone. And all the other files included assistance to other agencies, accidents, and assistance to the public. That's all I have on the stats for this month. Just want to let you know that this past month, Sergeant Hodgins has moved off to Demeray to become a staff sergeant there. So we will be having the new sergeant position posted this week for, I believe, for promotion. We have 1 corporal in town that's interested, and we'll see where the other applications come from as well. Again, that could take several months to go through the promotions system until we get a new person in the position. We've had Constable Chris McSavage leave this last week. He's been transferred to Jasper, and he's going to be enjoying his time there. We joked this morning that he'd be retired. It'll be a great loss for the community because he was involved with the cadet program in town. So hopefully someone in town can help fill that position. We will be getting a new member in town this week. He is from Hinton, Alberta. His name's Constable Dustin Gerard, and he should be up and running on our schedule starting next Monday. And he's got about 3 years experience, and looks like he came up last month and really enjoyed the community from what he saw. So he should have a good time here. We have a new cadet coming on approximately July 23rd, and he'll be trained for 6 months along with one of the other members in the detachment. And I believe that's all I've got. We're going to be opening the detachment up starting Thursday, and we're going to probably be open for restricted hours this week from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. People can come in and do their accent forms, criminal record. We're just restricting time a little bit just to make sure that we sanitize properly before people come in. And again, at the end of the day, make sure it's ready for the next day. And I think that's about all I can tell you right now.
Will you be requiring people to wear masks when they come into the detachment?
Yeah, they will be required to wear masks. We do have hand sanitizer available as well at the front. We'll be probably restricting, I think the limit is 4 right now. We'll play it by ear and see if we'll keep it at that maximum amount each day. And we'll be setting up outside how many people can come in at a time and keeping the distancing set at the 6 feet.
All right. Is there any questions from council? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much for your time and your report. And we look forward to seeing you again.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Jason. Enjoy your summer.
Yeah, have a good night.
So our next presentation is by the Matrix Group, and I believe it's Noel giving it. Noel, sorry. Is Noel here? Oh, there you are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just gonna try to share my screen here. Are you guys able to see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Madam Mayor, councilors, management, good evening, everyone. I guess before I get started on the presentation, I hope everyone's safe from this definitely unusual and unprecedented times. I'm afraid it might be the new norm now, you know, with Zoom meetings and Teams. So it looks like you guys are all pretty accustomed to all the Zoom meetings. So without further ado, I guess I'll step into the presentation. Okay, well, I went to the last page already. Just give me a second here. Okay, well, the purpose of this audit findings report, we've kind of summarized our presentation compared to the prior years to be a little bit more on the high level. But definitely, if there's any questions, detailed questions that you have, I'm more than happy to answer at the end of the presentation. The objective of this report is to communicate clearly to council our responsibilities with relation to the financial statements, evidently also our opinion with regards to the 2019 audit. As of July 2020, today, we substantially completed the audit of the town's financial statements, with the exception of our communication to council, completing our subsequent event procedure testing, obtaining evidence of council's approval, obtaining a signed management representation letter, the completion of the financial information return, and the completion of the FCSS review. So again, all of this is pending on whether or not council has approved the draft financial statements after today's presentation. Moving on, independence, we've indicated discussed this on our audit planning presentation as well, but just to reiterate, Canadian auditing standards require us as external auditors to communicate to council that whether or not there's any impairments on our abilities to perform our jobs objectively. So Appendix 1, we've confirmed our on the audit team and myself have any independence issues with the town of High Levels management. Moving on to the next, auditor's responsibility. So our audit of the town's financial statement was performed in accordance with Canadian Generally Accepted Auditing Standards. The standards require that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance. So in the past, I've always alluded that an audit is not absolute. It is under the ability to provide an opinion that the financial statements are not reasonably misstated with the assumption of materiality, which we'll go over in the following slides. The financial statements are, our opinion is provided in accordance with whether or not the statements are in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. Our audit considers internal controls. We perform a combined approach. And if there's any significant deficiencies where we feel that requires council and management to know, we will provide it in the form of either a management letter or actually as a audit findings report. Will be presented on the audit findings presentation as well. Again, just to remind, the responsibilities of management and those charged with government. So management is responsible for the preparation of financial statements in accordance with public accounting standards. And just as I indicated, our audit approach, you know, given that this is now, I think, our 4th or 5th year, we are familiar with the town's internal controls and processes. And over this time, we've been able to document the internal controls and processes in the extent that we are able to rely on the controls so that we can obtain more efficiencies and at the same time without sacrificing audit quality and reduce the amount of substantive testing that's required. Materiality, again, this is one of the key concepts of an audit. The materiality is what is the level of error that could exist in an audit financial statement without the user being significantly affected when making user decisions. So in consistent with the other 50 or so municipalities that we do and Canadian auditing standards, usually the typical benchmark is usually the lower of revenue or expenses of 2%, which would be around 275,000. So in aggregate, if we were to identify errors $275,000 or more, and management was not in agreement to changing it, we would have to provide a qualified, which is an unclean audit report. Okay. All right. So before I kind of go into the audit results, any questions on kind of the background of what an audit is, what we're getting into before we kind of get into the audit results? No? Okay. So here, we're going to go on a high level on some of the key areas that we're focused on, what we deem to be high risk to a municipality and high risk that's specific to the town. Now, just because, I just want to confirm the fact that just because we're identifying here as high risk doesn't necessarily mean that there were any significant errors identified. It's just based on our, because audits are risk-based, this is where we actually base our risk and our procedures accordingly. So first one, cash and cash equivalents. Again, the inherent risk with cash is that it's always subject to fraud, subject to theft, in the event that, you know, the entity does not have appropriate controls in place. So our audit procedures, evidently, there are appropriate segregation of duties, appropriate controls in place. We've obtained third-party evidence of the town's bank balance for performing bank confirmations and also reviewing bank reconciliations. And through our testing, there were no significant findings identified. Everything looked good. With regards to investments, it's quite a significant balance on the actual financial positions. We're looking at 6.6 million in 2018 and 4.6 million dollars in 2019. Our audit procedures here were to obtain third-party evidence as well to confirm the balance at the end of the year. By obtaining these confirmations, we're able to confirm the existence and the valuation. We also performed some reasonability calculations to ensure that interest income that was recorded in the statement of operations coincided with the balances that were recorded on these statements. Again, after performing these audit procedures, no significant variances were identified. As you can see, the investment did drop from prior year, around $1.8 million. This was primarily due to $1.8 million being disposed in the current year to pay for the capital reserve incurred. So these costs incurred were for the land transfer and utility capital projects. So essentially, we sold our investments, went into cash, and these were basically used to pay for these capital reserve projects. Moving on, receivables here. Again, receivable, quite a bit of risk when it comes down to the valuation. Given our uncertain economic times currently, the existence of receivables is not where our concerns are, is where the valuation of it, where can we collect all of it? That is basically where our concerns are. So our responses here is we've updated our understanding of the town's policies regarding collections and provisions. What we've done is that we tested subsequent receipts after year end to ensure any receivables that were on the age of greater than 90 to 120 days, whether or not they were collectible, or whether or not some receivables have to be written down. I know there were some instances where some receivables on the tax rolls are getting to the point where it's getting close to the assessment value. We performed substantive analytical procedures to assess the reasonability of receivables recorded. And in the current year, what we've identified was there was a few things. So there was an adjustment of a total of $5 million that was performed to accrue for the disaster recovery plan for the government of Alberta. And of course, this was related to the wildfire. We provide this proposal to management and they agreed to adjust the proposal. So no further significant findings were identified. But yeah, one of your biggest things here, if you look at 2019, $6.7 million in receivables versus $3.7 million. Again, this was primarily related to the actual DRP with regards to the wildfire. Accounts payable here, one of the biggest risks that we have is cutoff and completeness. Because public sector accounting standards require us to record expenses based on an accrual basis, not on cash basis. So the risk is that there may be expenses that were incurred by a town that were invoiced subsequent to December 31. So our job is to see if the accruals were completely captured. So we perform search fund report liabilities. We examine accrued liabilities for accuracy and completeness, inquire management, review council meetings. And after all this, all our procedures that we performed, there were no significant findings that were identified. And if you look at the current year versus last year, we're looking at a $4,000 variance. This is just based due to timing at the end of the day. So not a significant change from prior year. So deferred revenue here, and this is more of an accounting accrual, accounting treatment that varies significantly from cash accounting, which is probably what you folks are more used to. But essentially here, our biggest risk is that when we receive grant funding that have stipulations, in order for us to recognize that as revenue, we need to ensure that all the compliance requirements and eligibility criteria have been met. So our audit procedures in the current year were to obtain any new funding agreements, to obtain the actual deferred revenue continuity schedules, and to match any of the funding that was received to the funding that was spent to ensure that they were in accordance to the stipulations per grants. So in the current year, there was an adjustment that we proposed of $3.8 million to revenue as costs were actually incurred by the town. And my management was also in agreement with these proposed adjustments. So aside from that, there was no significant finding. So deferred revenue, you'll see that it increased from $1.1 million to 2.4. Again, without getting, I can get into this a little bit more detail, but on a high level, deferred revenue consists of your MSI, your Alberta transportation, and the federal gas tax. And at the end of the year, we're looking at $1.1 million related to MSI, which is funding that has been received by the town, but hasn't been spent in its entirety. $855,000 from Alberta transportation, and approximately $250,000 from the federal gas tax fund, which gives us around $2.5 million. Long-term debt, the town has not obtained any new debt, so the decrease from $3.4 million to $2.9 million was purely based on principal payments. So we've obtained the amortization schedules, performed our recalculations, confirmed the outstanding debentures with Alberta Capital Finance Associations, and no significant findings were identified there as well. Okay. Landfill closure and post-closure, this year there was a lot of work in terms of assessing the third party, the engineering reports. I think the town also made the decision as well with regards to, I think the decision was made to retain landfill 1 and to remediate landfill 2 to the minimum requirements. I think this decision was based on providing more opportunities for development and revising development subdivisions. Per the WSB monitoring costs, because in accordance to 3270, public sector 3270 for landfills, monitoring costs are required to be maintained by the town. And these were expected to be roughly around $36,000 per year. Carolyn and our team, we looked at the landfill model, and it looked like there were some revisions that we made with regards to the inflation factors that were used. And this resulted in the adjustment of around $225,000 to get the landfill liability liability as of the December 31 to its state. So not a significant change, but a lot of work actually went into this year. So I definitely thank Carolyn for their assistance on that. Moving on is tangible capital assets. You'll notice that it went down. Again, TCA, tangible capital assets, deferred revenue. You'll also realize government contributions for capital. These are all interrelated. If we get a grant from the government, it first gets reported as deferred revenue. Once it's been spent for tangible capital projects, TCA is going to go up for additions. And at the same time, we're going to recognize revenue in the income statement. So here, what we've done, we've looked at new additions, we looked at disposals, we looked at the continuity schedules, we've done some substantive testing regarding additions, disposals, recalculate amortization expense, losses to ensure that management calculations were accurate, and no significant findings were identified after we performed our audit procedures. We brought some other matters to administrative in nature to management attention, but nothing significant that we have to bring to council. In total, in general, there was $1.8 million of additions, $950,000 of disposals, and $5.4 million of amortization expense. If you consider those three items, that's what resulted in the decrease of the tangible capital assets. Tax revenue here, we have a very thorough substantive analytical model that we've utilized over the past years where we can more or less calculate tax revenue down to the penny. Budget, prior year, current year, all the figures are pretty close. Only deviations that you're going to have are most likely due to your assessment changes, 305s. After performing our procedure, no significant findings were identified. User fees, this is where a lot of the work when it comes out to testing does come up. User fees has a significant amount of transactions that happen in the year. So we do a lot of control testing. We do a lot of substantive testing in the year. And after doing our audit procedures, no significant findings were identified. You'll notice that in 2018, we were roughly around $250,000 more than the prior year. And this was all related to the town of High Level sending equipment down to Pincher Creek. That invoice, the equipment that was lent, that was roughly around $259,000. So that was one of the reasons why we have a significant variance from prior year. And with regards to budget, I think it's difficult to budget for consumption. So this is basically where the budget, I think the budget when you guys were kind of trying to budget, the consumption was higher than what was actually used. So that basically went into this way. Okay, so government transfers here. There's the operating component and capital. So again, this section here coincides with the deferred revenue where when we receive funding, we're recognizing as revenue. We're going to corroborate that the continuity schedules do tie in with the revenue recognition. So in 2019, the town received around $2.5 million of operating grants compared to 2018 of $900,000. So again, we're looking at almost $1.6 million. Biggest thing of why there was such a big increase in 2019 was due to $1.6 million, $1.5 million, which was related to the disaster recovery program due to the wildfire. And of course, the budget numbers would not be able to forecast this. I think in 2019, I think there was a lot less capital revenue than anticipated. In 2018, there was a lot of capital projects undertaken, which is why we spent $6.8 million versus only $875,000 in the current year. Aside from that, everything checked out, no significant findings were identified. Oh, sorry about that. Operating expenses. So operating expenses, this is also a section where we perform control. We do a dual purpose where we perform controls We'll do substantive testing and variance analytics. Here where our risks, inherent risks, are there fraudulent expenses being recorded, expenses that have not been recorded at the end of the year. We want to ensure the existence and completeness. So again, here we looked at the entity's controls, the processes, we've done substantive testing. Any significant items, we stratified those and we tested it on an individual basis. And we also performed a search for unrecorded liabilities, and after performing all those audit procedures, everything checked out. One of the things you'll notice is your variance from actuals to budget. So we're looking at around a close to almost a $7 million variance. Now, keep in mind, one of the reasons for the biggest, for a large variance from actuals to budget is that the town doesn't budget for amortization. Okay. So amortization is roughly around $5.5 million. Other anomalies are related just to, I think there was $420,000 that was related to the transfer of funds for the land swap to the Egg Society, which was not budgeted for. But this was passed in the resolution. There was also a $350,000 write-off with regards in Parks and Rec that was due to the arena design, as it was no longer applicable, as I believe the initiative now is to build the new arena instead of actually doing the rehabilitation on the old. And the remaining amounts were due to write-offs and I guess timing and differences of expenses. So those are kind of your key factors in terms of why there's such a large variance between actual to budget. And of course, with the wildfire, it is expected that costs would have increased compared to the prior year as well. Okay, so lastly here, we're looking at salaries, wages, and benefits. One of the biggest concerns we have here is fraudulent employees, ghost employees, employees that don't necessarily exist or created. So what we've done here is that we've usually tested any new employees, any terminations, and we've also performed a substantive analytical procedure. We've also done control testing of payroll controls, and everything checked out. No significant findings were identified. The last point here, I just want to bring to attention that an audit can only go as well as what management controls are. So we just put this point here to just really emphasize the importance of controls. If management was able to override controls where there was no segregation of duties, one person had the ability to post, prepare, review, no matter our audit procedures, we would not be able to identify any fraud or error risk if we were in. So no significant findings were identified. The controls that are in place are adequate, and we were able to rely on them in our audit procedures. So overall, our objective here is to communicate to council if there are any significant deficiencies in internal controls, which we did not identify. We do provide management with a management letter of any controls where we can provide them with further efficiencies or best practices that we see across the other municipalities that we audit. So we do provide that as well. With regards to, this year was a challenge. With the wildfire, with landfill, and now we added COVID-19, it was definitely a challenge trying to complete the audit, but we did it. And I definitely want to thank management for their assistance on that, as this was definitely unprecedented times here. But yeah, and again, as I alluded to, management letter, we will be submitting a letter to towns manager and other managers we feel should be brought to their attention. And if council, you want to take a look at this, you're more than welcome to take a look at this letter, the management letter as well. There were no unrecorded misstatements, so all the proposed adjustments or any variances that we identified from management numbers, it was all reported. So after considering both quantitative and qualitative factors with respect to the adjustments that we find, we agree with management that the financial statements are not materially misstated, and as a result, we are ready to provide an unqualified opinion. So with regards to the actual other matters, I do apologize. A is not applicable to you guys. There's no going concern, so I just don't. What it is related to is the subsequent event related to COVID-19. because of COVID-19, the valuation of assets and liabilities become in question due to measurement of uncertainty. So you'll notice on the financial statements in the back that there is a little note disclosure that talks about COVID-19 of when it started and how it may have implications with regards to the accuracy and the valuation of assets and liabilities at the end of the year. This wraps up my presentation. I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank management for their cooperation and support. Again, 2019, this was a tough year, but we did it. And I guess we look forward to 2020. We're almost halfway in there already. So I guess I open the floor to any questions at this time.
Council, do you have any questions? I can't see.
I don't have any.
No questions, seeing none. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure. And you guys take care.
Yeah, you too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so we'll move on to the delegation portion of our meeting. And the first is Mr. Henry Peters. Is there any discussion? Who clicked on?
That was me, Madam Mayor.
So-
Just from administration's point of view, the reason we allowed Mr. Peters to attend is that the animal bylaw in the town of High Level does not allow livestock to be stored. So that's a request that has to go directly to council. The other thing that requires variation within any development permit is the use of electric fences. And in the area that Mr. Peters is looking at, that is a heavily residential area with lots of children. So we're not recommending that this be allowed with an electric fence.
So in order to go forward with something like this, the bylaw would have to change.
You would have to amend the bylaw to allow the horses. We would also be looking at an alternate fencing source because it is in town.
Yes. And
Our recommendation, oh, sorry.
how long does it take to get a bylaw established?
Well, with your next meeting on August the 24th, it would probably be well into September before you could change that bylaw.
And
Our
what is-
recommendation, Madam Mayor, is that you accept his presentation for information.
Is there any other questions?
I was concerned about liability also. Would there be liability for the town for that? I imagine there would be, eh?
I think if we were to allow an electric fence, there would be some form of liability, especially in a residential neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay, I'll move it for information.
Any more discussion? Okay, I'll call yes, Councillor Morgan.
There was no conversation anywhere in his presentation about any sort of shelter or protection from the elements for those animals, which would have meant putting a building back there. And I don't believe we should be allowing that to happen, because that is basically the fire break now between the outlying area and the town.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Seeing no more discussion, I'll call the question. To receive for information, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing is Corporal Barber's report in the RCMP. Any more discussion on that? Could I have someone move for information then? Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. I sent my mayor's report because it is quite a lengthy one. Did everybody get a chance to read it?
Yep. You want to do the
You
minutes?
want me to read it to you, do you?
No.
I never received it, but I don't know if you really want to go through it and read it all, but I haven't read it.
Okay, well, I'll
We
just,
should review the
I'll just-
meeting minutes first.
is that why you're running in here? Okay, yes, we should, sorry. Could I have someone move to approve the meetings if there's no errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes.
Counselor Jesselman, all in favor? Carrie.
Aye.
Okay, so just to go, I'll just hit the high points. We had a ready report. It was our commodity reports. It looks very dismal for Canada in the next 10 years for oil. Currently, we've been talking broadband at the ready table, and there are a few options that are going on within the county. CCI being one of them, Arrow, who is taking fiber into the reserves, and basically Elon Musk's SpaceX is supposed to be set for transportation for high-speed internet sometime this year. I talked, we had an MFTA meeting. The high points there are the Move Up magazine showcases, and the points that in order to get into the showcase, you have to be a member in good standing to MFT, be from the region, seasonal relevant. We are moving into a partnership with Move Up Magazine and Travel Alberta, working on a grant application for $47,000. We're working on a Stay in Frontier campaign, and we've budgeted $29,000 for this to get our residents to stay in our region and check out our own areas of importance. Boreal housing is basically finished. Currently, the schedule shows a July 27th interim turnover to the Boreal housing with an August move-in date. And the furniture will be going in next week sometime, and then they will be giving tours to us. Housing in the fort. We're working on the furnaces, hot water tanks, and everything else. Homes, interim homes. We also, COVID support, we talked about supported living. Dr. Henshaw says we have not received a change of order from her, so we cannot allow people in there. If we do, we could be setting ourselves up for some $100,000 fines. So this we're not allowing. Then the Local Authorities Election Act, I was online for that. And yeah, that's about it. And I talked about the Election Acts my last report, so I'm not going to go through it again. Is there any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, at the broadband conference,
Right.
that last item about SpaceX's service, like, I know we're actively looking at some infrastructure expenses and investment to move forward with better internet in our area. Is it maybe worth waiting to see what pans out with that other program? Because does it require extra expenditure on infrastructure, or is it just internet that would be available via like a cell service, or how exactly does that work?
It would be basically an internet services to rural Canada. I do not believe it includes cell service. You can jump in, Deputy Mayor, if you heard different.
I guess just would there be a lot of infrastructure costs with that kind of global service that's on the horizon?
There would be zero infrastructure costs. But
Okay.
I believe with the proposal that we are working on right now, there aren't any infrastructure costs either.
Oh, I guess there would be a shared, sort of a shared agreement.
Yeah,
That's right. Okay.
just a space to put the towers would be our cost.
Right. Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that, there might be more.
Did
But
they,
as
did they say they're waiting for the CRTC license?
Right.
What kind of timeframes are we looking at for something like that?
I don't know how
Okay.
long it takes to CTRC. And that was not discussed, so I can't provide you with that information, but I can talk to Andrew tomorrow and get back to you on it.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions on it? Okay, could I have someone accept my report then?
I will.
Councillor Jessamine? All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so council reports, Deputy Mayor.
So on June 24th, I attended the same ready meeting as the mayor's already indicated. Then earlier today, July the 6th, attended a city working group meeting. I'm sure the notice has come out or will come out, but asking council to set aside a full day on August the 18th for the next in-person large group working session. And then later this afternoon, attended a meeting with the mayor and administration with Minister of Transportation, McIver, on our current asks. And subject to any questions, that's it.
Yes, the deputy mayor is correct. There should be a meeting date coming out. It will be the 18th. We asked you to save that space in your calendars, the 18th and 19th of August. It will only be the 18th now, and it'll be from 9 to 5. Carolyn will be sending out an invite. Any questions of Deputy Mayor? Okay, thank you. Councillor Anderson.
I have no committees to report on.
Okay, thank you. Did you hear anything about whether you said the Golden Range was going to open, but when is their first meeting going to be?
I haven't heard on the first meeting. No, I have no idea. My wife's shaking her head. She doesn't know either.
Oh,
But I do believe the building, I do believe, is open now.
yeah,
Today.
it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw vehicles there. Oh, yeah, I was just wondering if they're going to have their August meeting.
I would think they probably will, but I really don't have any indication yet. So.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Forrest.
No committee reports.
Thank you. Councillor Jessamine.
Just to report that our AGM for our High Level Policing Society will be held Wednesday night at the Flamingo Restaurant lounge area. So if anybody's interested in being a part of our society, they're welcome to come out, and nothing else to report.
I'm sorry, when was that meeting?
Wednesday evening, this Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the Flamingo.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Morgan.
June 24th, I attended a high-level library board meeting. We just went over the reopening structure for the library and what hours it's going to be open. It was a very short meeting. And then June 25th, I attended the same Mackenzie Frontier Tourism meeting that the mayor attended. That is all.
Do you have anything to add to what I said?
No,
No.
you
Okay.
covered it immaculately.
Yeah, right. Okay, thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor Welke.
On June 30th, I attended another FASD Society meeting. Still working towards upgrading the building to so it's suitable for the clients and the and the staff to completely move in. Getting closer. Otherwise, I just have another update from Community Futures on the CFRRF loans. This is just important for the public to hear. Currently, there's 36 applicants for the loans. I won't go into all the details, but the main thing to note is $644,000 has been dispersed. 17 approved loans have gone out. There's some pending. The unallocated funds, which we're at, sorry, I'm just reading this email here. Basically, Community Futures has been advanced $700,000. And they've requested the final advance of $266,000 for a total of $966,000 available in our region. And if this money is not allocated to businesses, the oversubscribed Community Futures may have to, they may pull back the money. So just it's important for the public and, businesses out there that are interested in this, or to want to find out if they qualify, should contact our Community Futures office fairly quickly, because as of July 15th, then it'll kind of be closing down.
So has there been any applications in our region?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's 17 approved loans have gone out.
17 here.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's just in our within our Community Futures jurisdiction.
Okay. Is there any other questions of Councillor Wilkie? Just a question, Councillor Wilkie, about the house that FASD currently rents from Boreal Housing. Is there any information on when those residents will be moving out?
Well, it's all dependent on these final renovations of the new building.
So those residents will be moving into the new building?
Correct.
Okay.
And it's getting close now. There's just a few things. I believe it's the flooring in certain areas have to be updated now, and it could be fairly soon. I think our AGM is July 15th, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that, but hopefully everything will be finalized by around that date.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Could I have someone move to accept the council reports? Seeing nobody wants, Councillor Anderson. All in favor? Carried. Actions resulting from council committees, meetings. Any questions, concerns? Okay. Could I have a?
I'll move it for information.
Councillor Morgan moves for information. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Capital project status sheet. Did you all see the sweeper in the parade? No?
Nice looking machine.
Yeah.
Yes, twice.
Went down your
wasn't-
street twice?
He did, yep. And I wasn't too impressed with its cleaning abilities today on our street.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. I noticed that it's actually seems to be leaving a bigger mess than it's cleaning up.
Perhaps you can talk to Mr. Straub when we get there
Awesome.
to the reports and ask him about it. Okay, is there any other questions on the capital project report?
I'll move for information.
Deputy Mayor moves. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Financial report. Ms. Zanko,
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
good evening.
Oh, good, you can hear me, great. If anybody has any questions, I am more than willing to answer them. I tried to provide information on the large variances in revenues that we were expecting due to COVID. But if there are any more questions, please feel free to ask.
Is there any questions in those large variances?
Great job in the 2019 financials.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Seeing no questions, could I have someone move to accept them? Councillor Welke, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so monthly report to council from administration. Hello?
Madam Mayor, the report is there for your review, and if there are any questions, would you like to start with Mr. Straub on the new sweeper?
I guess we better.
Good evening, Madam Mayor. Yeah, the new sweeper was out today with its new operator. He's been on holiday. So first of all, it's first day on it. So there is a bit of a learning curve. Second, it is pretty muddy out there, but we sure hope it improves. Again, it's his first day on it. So I've got to give the guy a break.
Does that answer your question? Councillor Jessamine and Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, we'll give him some leeway.
It doesn't answer my question, but yes, if he's new, we'll give him some leeway.
To reiterate, it is pretty muddy. So it's a new unit, and I'm gonna have to figure out how it works in the wet.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of the reports? Did you notice our clicks on our parade? I'd like to say right now, thank you to all all parts of the town team that were a part of that parade. We had a lot of positive comments about it. You all did a fantastic job, and we're very proud of you. And our parade just keeps getting bigger and better. And I'd like to thank the public for being out there and cheering everybody on, even in the wet, dismal weather. I think it was very well received. We had 17,000 hits on our Facebook page, and the only one bigger than us was Grand Prairie. We even beat out Fort St. John with viewers. So thank you, public, for enjoying this. So seeing no questions from the monthly reports, could I have someone move to accept?
All done.
Councillor Forrest, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, old business. 12.1, the RFD. It's a request to council to table it to the August meeting so that we can get more information. Could I have someone move to table to August? Councillor Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. The next one is the briefing note about the Danida request for collaboration on the cinema. I will turn it over to Ms. Rolfe.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So we had been approached by the Danida back about 3 weeks ago, and we had discussed it briefly, and Council had asked me to come back with some more information. So our original dates, we were looking at July 10th and 11th, and the main issue we were having with that was that it was so light out that we would have to be running the movies at 11:30 at night, so it would only be one movie for each night, and we didn't feel that that was really conducive to a family event. As well, we have to supply the movies, and you have to have a license to do so. So we'd be working with the library. We need at least 2 to 3 weeks to get movies in, and we want to make sure that they run well before we spend the money to get the open air cinema in. So the cost for that would have been $13,500, and the Danny Thaw was asking for the town to cover 40%. That would have amounted to just over $5,000. So we looked at another option of some dates in September. We tried directly contacting the place in Edmonton that's doing that, which was Twilight Music Services. So it would have been slightly less funds if we do these dates in September. So we'd be looking at our share being just under $4,000. We could run the 2 nights of double movies, and so that would be another option. And we've also talked about, back some time ago, there was some discussion on us purchasing an inflatable screen package. It would be slightly different than the drive-in one. The one we're looking at would be 20 feet. The drive-in ones are 40 feet, but they also weigh 600 pounds. So the 20-foot package, it's like all-inclusive, comes with everything in it, runs about $16,000. And in discussions with the Danny Thaw, they were interested in looking at a 50% cost share, but we don't have everything in stone. We're still considering it. So that's where we're at right now. So I'd be happy to bring this back for a decision in our August meeting, plus there's some input from council further on this.
So, Ms. Rolfe, while you were discussing this with the Dene, what was their preference? Were they more interested in a September date or option 3?
Both, but I think when they realized the cost of purchasing one, they talked about, if we were able to store it and that kind of thing, we felt it's something that we could make lots of use of over the years, and you can use them year round outside, which is something different. So it wouldn't be for drive-ins, but for sit down, the one we were looking at could accommodate up to 500 people. So say 200-300 in COVID, 200, I guess, in COVID times. So they just felt that made a lot more sense and something that they wanted to look into. So that's kind of where we had left it. But we also said that we would look at the September dates for them and get back to them with that information. So they all have all the information. They wanted the details on the screen, so we just sent that all to them. How much they weigh, what comes with them, the cost for the smaller ones right up to the 40-foot ones. So we've sent all that information to them. So that's kind of where we left off.
Okay, Councillor Jessman, did you have a question?
If we were to purchase the unit, do we know what additional costs would be if we were to run movies? Do we have to rent those movies, or is there an annual fee for licensing? Do we know any of that information, or do we have any?
Yes, we have a license with the library that we can use because we're partners with them. So we can get movies through them, and there would be a very nominal cost. Like we would, basically there wouldn't be a cost, but we would work out something with them. So I don't know how recent we could get with them, but like how, you know what I mean, how recent the movies are. But
Councillor Welke.
That was going to be my question, is with this license, does that include new releases? Like could we technically get an actual modern current movie theater running in an outdoor setting in the north?
Yes, you can get a new release. We just have to go through a different avenue. So I'm not sure if it's the same license, but there is another, because we had asked that before, there is another way to do that if we want to go that route. And I think that ends up to be, trying to remember whether that was like a couple $100, but there was a route where you could get a new release. So.
And so where would the sound come from, Ruth?
Well, on these smaller units, they actually have speakers. When you go with the larger, with the drive-in units that are like 40 feet, those ones, they work them so they can come through the FM on your car. So.
But the smaller ones, if we were to purchase, would actually have speakers.
Yes, yep. It has a whole package it comes with.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for? Okay, could I have someone I don't know, do you want time to explore this? Do you want us to give you a decision?
Well, we could come back with, I think there's still enough time if we come back for the meeting on the 24th. And I think by then we'd know for sure which direction we were going. And then we would have a specific request for decision for council, unless
Okay.
there's something council particularly would like me to look at or to move forward on.
Sorry, would that
Yes.
allow enough time to actually purchase and have it delivered for the September dates?
Well, if we were purchasing one, then we could have one whenever. We wouldn't be stuck to any particular date. So, but they do have the 20-foot ones in stock. So,
Councillor Jessamine.
Have we confirmed that we were able to store the unit? Do we have facilities to store it?
yes, we do.
Thank you.
Councillor Forrest. Councillor Anderson.
Ruth, do you know what the longevity of these screens are? Are they good for a year, 2 years? Can they be used at 30 below or 20 below or 10 below? Or are they just a kind of a summertime thing?
Well, my understanding that they can be used in the cold, but that's a good thing to follow up with. And they do come with a 3-year warranty. It might be worthwhile talking to another municipality or someone else that's purchased them to see what their experience has been, and that's something I can ask them as well.
Yeah,
All right.
I think we need to follow up on that just a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right, so we will leave that with you then. We'll accept for information at this point. No. Do you want us just to brief?
Do you want to just table it to the
I
August
move we
24th?
table it into the August
Okay,
24th.
we'll table it to the August meeting. Does someone want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Jessamine, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so 12.3 is bookings at the town hall, sports fields, etc. Ms. Rolfe, I guess
I'll move
that's
the recommendation. It's pretty straightforward.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so 12.4 is the renaming of 92nd Avenue. CAO.
Madam Mayor, Haley will address that.
I didn't know she was online.
Yep, she's there.
There she
Good
is.
evening.
Good evening.
So at the June 22nd council meeting, we were asked to bring back the renaming of 92nd Avenue to the July 6th. I've included some feedback that we got from Alberta Transportation in the RFD. So essentially for Old Highway 58 Road, I've just included this for a bit more info. They confirmed that the road was de-gazetted, so it doesn't, it's not under the province anymore, it's to the town. So proceeding with that name change, they have no issue with. For 92nd Avenue, they don't have an issue with the name. There was a few minor concerns about the location of the road in the spatial data set, so I have corrected that, and that's in the new map that I updated for this. The town does have a policy for street and park naming and facility naming. So I've included that for added context. And this is really just for council's discussion for direction on this. So there's a number of ways you can go. We could go with the numbered road, 95th. Pioneer Road was provided as a recommendation by administration at the last meeting. Obviously, there's other options. There's an option to involve the public as well. So it's really up to council, and we're just looking for your direction this evening.
Okay, is there any questions of Haley, council? So I know we're looking at naming some of our facilities in partnership with the Dene. So as a suggestion, I believe this would be a good way to begin it instead of renaming something, that we have something that we can name right now. So we did ask the chief and Jordan to submit us some names that we could look at naming this street, road. Is there any other suggestions? Questions, concerns?
I like Pioneer Road. You know, I think that's gonna be a nice name for it. That new elevator going in there, and that's Pioneer. I think it would be a compliment to them.
Okay. Councillor Welke.
Did we receive any suggestions in consultation with the Denny?
No.
No,
not
Madam Mayor, we haven't received any yet.
They were in a council meeting today and we never had any discussion on this before. It was something that we've been in partnership with the Dene and we've talked about naming. And as this is one of our first renaming of something, I just thought it would be a good idea. And CAO did talk to Jordan about it, and I was going to talk to the chief, but I didn't want to bother him during a council meeting.
I agree that would be a good idea to collaborate a little bit, possibly with the Dene on some road names.
Is there any other comments, suggestions? Okay, so could I have a, do you want a resolution on this? Or do you want us to table it to the August meeting? Does it need to be named today?
Madam Mayor, I'll defer to Haley as well, but we should probably at least redesignate it as a numbered road with the 95th. If you wanted to work with the Dene to come up with a name, that's probably something we can add in afterwards. But at least that would allow Richardson to have an address.
Can we, once it's a numbered road, CAO, can it be changed easily?
It's
Haley?
Haley, but yes, it can.
Oh,
Yeah, so essentially where we're at right now is I've done most of our updates on our addressing data sets and for road names as well. All of the proposed amendments that we came to council with a couple of weeks ago, we've sent out letters to business owners, so the property owners rather, today and tomorrow. They'll be going out by email as well. And then we've kind of left a bit of a feedback period for about 2.5 weeks. And I'm hoping to submit the updated data set by July 24th or the end of July at the latest. So absolutely we can put in a new numbered road for now, or we can leave it as 92nd. I mean, I don't think we should do that, but we could change it to 95th. And then if in a couple of months down the road, we come up with a new name, it's just a case of amending it and respinning the data set. So we perhaps wouldn't want to buy the street names or whatever until we've got a finalized name. That would be my suggestion anyway.
thank you. CAO, did you have something to say?
Nope, I have nothing to add.
Okay. All right, so how do the rest of council feel about giving it 95 and then we'll revisit this at our August meeting? That will give us time to collaborate with the Dene, perhaps on the 18th. We could come up with a road name while council's meeting to council.
Sounds
Yes.
good.
So does somebody want to table it, the naming of the road to August meeting, please?
I'll table
Madam
that.
Mayor,
Councillor Morgan, yes?
we need the motion to rename it 95th at this time.
Okay, can we have
And
a,
then
Okay, Counselor Morgan makes the motion to rename this road to 95th. All in favor?
Aye.
So now perhaps we can have a resolution to table the rest of the actual naming of the road to the August meeting.
I'll table that to the August meeting.
Counselor Welke, thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to new business 13.1, the operating for the surplus reserve. I'll turn this over to Ms. Zanko.
Hello again. So this is just the annual transfer of surplus from those financial statements that you just saw that Noel presented. And this is after all, there was actually quite a lot of reserve activity this year. As you recall, there were lots of resolutions, and this is not considering any of that. So this is what is left to be transferred
Okay,
for the
thank you.
policy.
Any questions of Ms. Zanko? Okay, could I have a motion, please?
I'll move our alternative one.
Counselor Forrest moves to transfer as per recommendation. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. 13.2, RFD for the audited financials. Does anyone have any questions? If not, could I have someone move that we accept them?
I'll move that we accept the report, audited financials.
Counselor Jessamine, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. So the RFD to the amending fees bylaw, I will turn this over to Ms. Zanko.
Hello again. So this this came from, we realized that there aren't lease rates for land other than the airport in our fee schedule, and so that was the primary reason for this amending bylaw. But we also went through the bylaw as a management team and found there were some other areas that either needed to be adjusted because of COVID, so those are the ball diamonds, or stuff that just needed to be cleaned up, and we may as well do it while we're amending the bylaw.
So I just have one question of administration before we amend this, and it's down in Schedule M where we have a plot fee, and then we have a monument fee, and then we have a double monument fee. So my question is, what do you get for your $500? I realize that. Just asking because I've never encountered a monument fee before, and I guess I wasn't looking when we passed this the last time.
And Madam Mayor, if I can start on that, but this is definitely something council can discuss. So what we were looking at is we've had recent requests for double monuments on side-by-side plots, and there was only a single monument fee, but you are correct. Anyone wishing a plot pays $500 for each plot. The monument fee itself could be considered as part of that fee rather than charging a single or a double. That is at the discretion of council, unless any of the other directors had anything to add.
Council, how do you feel?
I'd like to see it as one fee, $500.
Anybody else? Councillor Jessamine?
I support that as well.
Okay, seeing nobody, can we strike the monument fees then from that amending bylaw?
I'll move first reading as amended.
Okay. All in favor with first reading?
Aye.
Carried. Could I have someone move second reading?
Second.
Counselor Forrest, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Can I have someone move unanimous consent?
I'll move unanimous consent.
Counselor Anderson, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And someone move third reading, please. Counselor Morgan, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. 13.4, discussion about the fire training classroom. I will turn this over to Ms. Zanko.
Yes, so we received a response from the county. As you recall, council would have agreed to a certain number of projects back during our budgeting time in the fall, and then the administration sent a letter to the county. They essentially declined the one project, which is to do with the fire training grounds. It was putting utilities in there, I believe. I put the description in here to refresh your memory. But so when they declined, council had asked administration to follow up with them, and we have received a response. So we did include the letter that we received from the county in this package. And it is our opinion that, I mean, technically this is not fire and rescue capital equipment. I'm told there might be prior mediation that may have happened that might be relevant, but to me, okay, we can fund this from reserves if that is what council would like to do.
Madam Mayor, sorry.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, Director Schmidt might have some information on previous arbitration.
Madam Mayor, thanks, CEO McCaskill. Yeah, so two things in the past. Mackenzie County already has a precedent to funding the training facility. They funded the Phase 5 trainer on the same formula. So it was a 1/3 town, 1/3 donation from Firefighters Association and 1/3 from the county. So that precedent is already there. I believe early on in the RSSA, there was a arbitration ruling that capital consisted of anything that was a tangible capital asset. I don't have that paperwork with me for this meeting. We just discussed it this afternoon, but I remember that was early on in the RSSA. Regardless, as Ms. Senko said, it's only $15,000. You know, if we have to fund it from reserves, we can do so.
Council, what is your wish?
I have a question.
Councillor Wilkie.
So with this newer facility, maybe Director Schmidt, is there a potential to generate revenue?
Maybe in the long term. You know, generated revenue means we need to have people there to keep that facility going, and that's really just not our purpose at this point. It's for our firefighters and the firefighters in the region. We do train firefighters from across the region, including Mackenzie County, at that facility. So, but a revenue generator, I would say at this point, it would be minimal, and unless we had capacity to have full-time instruction there.
Right. I guess maybe I'll clarify. If we do joint projects or joint training, is there costs associated, you know, for the groups that are coming in and getting that training, or is it generally a sort of a shared thing, especially with our direct neighbors such as Mackenzie County? Is it training that goes on that then does not like elicit any additional costs to the attendees?
That is correct. Specifically with our county neighbors, we do not charge the county for attending our training here in High Level in the regional center, because it has been in the past regionally funded.
Okay.
So as per their letter, fire and rescue, like Carolyn highlighted those, and I agree that we could take this to arbitration because the interpretation would probably go our way, because there's a difference. Like the county, I don't know if they thought it was capital equipment. It's actually capital expenditures. So But do we want to go to arbitration for $15,000? I guess that's the question, Council.
It would cost us more in lawyers than the $15,000.
Not necessarily if we won. Have we brought up the precedent with them or pointed it out that they've already agreed to fund a project of this type?
No, we have not had any correspondence back to the county since we received their letter.
So maybe that's a starting point, is just send them a letter and point out that it's capital expenditure and that precedent has been set.
Yeah, we can dig that out and find the actual wording of that arbitration decision.
If that's what the rest of council wants, that would probably be a first step.
I would say so.
I think they also just mentioned that it's just not in their budget too. Am I correct?
Well, it's not in their budget because they didn't put it in their budget. It was sent to them, in October, which is our date for outlining capital expenditures.
Okay.
And so that's when they decide yay or nay whether they're going to fund them according to our agreements. So it could be just a misinterpretation of the agreement, but I agree, they don't probably have a lot of money either. So it's up to council, whatever you wish. But, like a first attempt to say, well, we believe that maybe you made a mistake in interpreting this, and, there has been precedent, may work.
So I'd say send them a letter.
Yep, I agree.
Might as well
One more
start that.
clarification.
Counselor? Does somebody
What's
want
that?
to motion? Does somebody want to make the motion then?
Yes, I'll make that
I'll
motion.
make-
That was the letter.
Okay, Counselor Forrest makes the motion to send a letter to Mackenzie County, or ask administration to send a letter. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, so the next one is a recent one. If you check your email, it's 13.5 and it's lift station replacement borrowing law. And I will turn it over to Ms. Zanko.
Hello. Okay, so I do apologize that this came late, but it is something that is directly from the budget. We had initially delayed this borrowing bylaw. We were going to wait for to tender the project, and then we included it on the list of unfunded projects that we sent to the provincial government in April. But given the recent funding announcements, this was not included on what the provincial government decided that they were going to be funding. And really our timelines are starting to become a little tight here. We thought it would be prudent to get this borrowing bylaw to you now so we can advertise the 2 weeks that is required by the Municipal Government Act. So the amount in the bylaw is the $800,000 from the budget. And we have kept it at the 20 years that I believe we discussed at budget time. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Is there any questions of Ms. Zanko?
No.
Okay, could I have someone please give first reading for the lift station borrowing law replacement?
I'll
borrowing?
move first reading.
Councillor Anderson, Deputy Mayor Langford moves first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. Correspondence for action, Alberta Infrastructure Act.
Madam Mayor, that is, sorry. Madam Mayor, that's just an invitation to take their survey on the 20-year strategic capital plan for the province. We can forward the actual email and that'll provide you with a link.
So is that open to everybody to do, or is it per municipality?
I think it says as leaders in your field. So I'm going to assume that they're looking at us for as municipalities.
So if we all put town a high level and we have different, anyways, yes, I already did it. So that's why I'm asking you. I thought they had sent it to everybody, and then I thought, oh my God, maybe it's just for the town of high level, for all of us together.
If we can't get in, thank you for saving us the work.
Question?
I hope you all agree with me. Yes.
Do you identify yourself and position at all during the survey, or is it fairly anonymous?
It does ask for your postal code.
Okay.
Okay.
So you'll send that out to everyone then?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
So do you want just accept that as information and we'll send it out?
Yes. Someone please move for information. Councillor Jesselman, all in favor? Carried. 14.2 is from Barry Moshida, and that's the AUMA president, and he's looking to come up here again, July 31st. I know that's the long weekend, so council, are you going to be here?
I'll try and be here.
And it's from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. It would be probably good if as many as possible could meet with him.
Possibly.
Pardon me?
Possibly I'll be here.
Okay. I was wondering if perhaps we should invite Rainbow to come to high level, or invite the county because they are members of AUMA.
We can definitely extend that to see if it would be more convenient for all three of us to meet in the same spot rather than Mr. Morishita traveling through the area.
I don't know if he's traveling to other, because it says invite neighboring municipalities, including county. So I'm not
We will
sure.
check into that.
Okay. Could we also maybe invite chief and council? It'd be interesting for them to see what he talks about, especially if we have coffee and donuts.
If council so wishes, yes.
Okay, council? Invite everybody?
Sure.
Okay. So do you want us to move this for information?
Well, maybe just permission to host Mr. Morishita and invite our neighbors to the meeting.
Okay, resolution to invite our neighbors and host Mr. Morishita. Somebody?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Anderson, all in favor? Carried. Can I have someone move the correspondence for information if you don't want to bring anything out?
I'll move you 15.1 to 15.4.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Motion to, so this is going to end our public part of our meeting. If you have any questions, please send them in and we will answer them. So thank you for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next council meeting. Council, could I have a motion to move in camera, please?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Morgan, all in favor? Carried.